My name is Tim Blumentritt, and this presentation covers strategic activity systems. While the resource-based view is the primary model for analyzing a firm's distinctiveness, it is less helpful in understanding how firms organize their activities to integrate competitively valuable resources into systems of capabilities. Strategic activity systems fill this need. I'll start with some context. Internal strategic analysis examines the foundations on which a firm competes for customers. The primary source of competitiveness is something that makes the firm distinctive, sets it apart from its competitors. However, that's only part of the battle. Then the firm has to be able to deliver those sources of distinctiveness to the market effectively and efficiently. This is where strategic activity systems and organizational design come in. These two analytical perspectives consider how firms build processes and direct people to ensure that they are operationally excellent at what they are choosing to do. Interestingly, sometimes the systems or the designs are actually sources of distinctiveness. That is, firms that have production processes that are exceptionally efficient or employees that are exceptionally capable can point to their processes or designs as not only the ways they deliver sources of distinctiveness to the market, they are the sources of distinctiveness. Let's dive into strategic activity systems with the basic observation that most firms are organized into groups of some sort, like divisions or departments, but customers interact with firms more holistically. The units that comprise Kennesaw State, which is structured like many universities, provide an example. As a student, you engage with KSU's people and systems in many different ways. You sign up for classes through the registrar's office. You pay your tuition through the bursar's office. UITS provides support for the D2L Brightspace sites for your courses, and you take classes from different instructors in a variety of departments and colleges. While there are standards and expectations that are common across the university, each of these interactions can be idiosyncratic. That is, the registrar's office has different systems and expertise than does the bursar's office. Each instructor, department, and college operates in its own way. Yet even as all of these units have their own specialties, your student experience is better if they smoothly work with one another and in a way that supports the core purpose of Kennesaw State, providing an excellent education. Said another way, student experiences are formed by three components: units that perform their functions at high levels, proper integration among those functions, and an overall dedication to the institution's core purpose. Strategic activity systems provides labels for these three components. Discrete activities break a firm down into specific activities or separate activities that require different skill sets and specialized technologies and physical resources. The intention is to fully understand the strengths and weaknesses of each activity. Notice that benchmarking fits right in here. Linkages can be defined as the impact of the performance of one discrete activity on the performance of another. For instance, a firm that has excellent design and manufacture capabilities is sure to find marketing to be an easier task. That is, the designing products and manufacturing operations are their separate, discrete activities, but strong performance in them and seamless integration between the units would make other parts of the firm, such as marketing, more successful. Drivers are elements of a firm that significantly influence overall strategic decisions. Consider them to be the rhythms and flows embedded in an organization that underlie how it gets things done. Drivers reflect pre-existing structural conditions of a firm, or how past actions and investments influence its present condition and shape its future. A few additional details on these three components. First, identifying discrete activities depends on the degree to which they can be separated from others. The intention is to isolate units from one another based on the specialized skill sets, activities, and technologies that are necessary to perform the function. This allows you to dissect how each unit is performing. Normally, this is pretty easy to do using just department or unit names. But in small businesses, where staff often have to blend their job descriptions to include whatever needs to get done that day, it can be more difficult. On the other hand, at large firms, some divisions that are discrete activities on their own can be broken down into subunits. For instance, the Coles College of Business is a discrete activity relative to the other colleges, but it itself is comprised of different departments and administrative activities that could be called discrete activities on their own. The isolation of units is most important for those that have the greatest levels of investment and command a greater share of attention from senior executives because they have the most significant impact on the overall performance of the firm. This is where cost considerations come into focus. Not only do the discrete activities have to perform well, they all must be efficient and effective. Linkages consider how those disparate activities interact with one another. The most impactful linkages are those that create smooth interactions between units. This can be more difficult than expected. For a simple example, consider the interactions between the sales and the manufacturing units of a firm, each of which are their own discrete activities. The purpose of a sales function is to generate revenue. Its staff will have the training, personalities, and motivations aligned with that function and will have incentives to do it well. The same with manufacturing. Creating linkages between the two requires that their distinct staffs and their different performance measures work well enough together to create a system that benefits customers. Further, some linkages are more intense than others, and therefore more meaningful to a firm's performance. Those that are most important to performance will be supported by embedded processes and technologies to make sure that information and support flow efficiently between the units. Drivers are the most difficult to put your finger on. They are the underlying themes that influence an organization's decisions in consistent ways over time. At Kansas State University, senior staff often refer to student success when discussing why certain decisions were made. And this is true of leaders of just about every unit on campus, from college deans to vice presidents of finance and operations. As such, student success would be a driver of activities here at KSU. Now drivers can have multiple effects on activity systems. They can be sources of strategic consistency when things are going well. They are also the cause of strategic rigidities if the market changes, but the firm does not. Let's now turn our attention to how these components work to create an overall system. I'll do so by considering three generalized strategic activity systems. While no company actually looks like any of the three, they provide a good foundation for considering how firms bring discrete activities, linkages, and drivers together. Michael Porter's value chain kicked off considerations of strategic activity systems. After completing his efforts on industry analysis and the Five Forces model, Michael Porter turned his attention to how firms within an industry differ. His response was the value chain. In the Five Forces model, the level of analysis does not go any deeper than an entire firm. That is, firms are rivals or potential entrants or suppliers. In developing the value chain, Porter was turning his eye inside a firm, analyzing how it could be dissected into parts and how those parts work together. He broke firms down into primary activities and support activities. Primary activities flow with the firm's products. The system starts with inbound logistics, or gathering the raw materials needed to make the product and getting them to the factories, transforming raw materials into finished products through operations, shipping the products to clients or distributors through outbound logistics, creating demand for the products through marketing and sales, and finally, helping the products retain their value through aftermarket service. If these different functions work well with one another, they have productive linkages. Support activities enable those primary activities and are linked to them. Procurement is buying things, including raw materials, but also office supplies, buildings, trucks, and anything else a firm needs. Technology development is both research and development as well as managing information. Human resources includes hiring, training, developing, compensating, and even firing people. Lass Porter uses firm infrastructure as a catch-all term for all other administrative functions, including top management, along with accounting, finance, legal, and other support activities. this slide and the next drill in points on discrete activities and linkages. As mentioned earlier, a discrete activity is one that can be isolated from others. This allows executives to focus on the contribution and performance of a particular unit, but those isolations can occur on many levels. Consider the sales and marketing box. It is a discrete activity relative to the other primary functions in the value chain. However, the sales and marketing function can be further broken down into both marketing activities and sales activities. They are different things. Each of those units can be further broken down into operational units. Discrete activities apply to all of them. Similarly, we can also consider a variety of the linkages between the different types of discrete activities. The value chain best depicts a manufacturing firm in which one primary activity, say inbound logistics, must precede another, like manufacturing. The linkages from one step in the process to the next are obvious. Linkages exist in other ways as well. The support activities are linked to the primary activities and among themselves. For instance, the abilities of a firm's human resources unit in hiring and retaining excellent employees could impact the quality of performance in all of the other units. And linkages can skip units. For instance, excellent production operations, which should result in products of superior quality, would make marketing them all the easier. The value chain is a quite generalized model for breaking down a firm's activities. No firm actually looks like this chain. Worry less about this particular graphic and more about the overall idea of deconstructing a firm into its parts and how those parts are linked. Once we allow for a general application of discrete activities and linkages, we can explore other generalized activity systems. I'll discuss two types of service firms. At the core of many service firms are experts and specialized systems that solve problems. Accountants, doctors, marketing firms, and consultants are examples. Instead of producing goods, they produce solutions for their customers. The discrete activities start with diagnosing the problem that the client has. That is, you go to the doctor when you feel poorly, but expect the doctor to identify what is making you ill. The service provider then outlines your options for solving the problem, helps you select the best of those options, works with you to implement the solution, and then checks to see if the problem is resolved or if new problems have arisen. The same support activities underlie these different primary activities. While the nature of the activities here is much different than in manufacturing companies, the objective of the analysis is still the same. Break a firm down into its discrete activities, in this case the different facets of a service, and see how they work together. In a value shop, the lines between discrete activities can be blurrier. At very small service firms, one person might seamlessly do all of them, like your family doctor. At larger service firms, these functions are often passed between people, like at consultancies where senior partners maintain client relationships, engagement managers guide the identification and dissection of a project, and junior employees implement the solutions. The logic works just as well here as with value chains. Last, consider service providers that create and maintain networks that then benefit its members. Communications firms, like cell phone providers or TV subscription services, banks, and insurance companies are all examples. The primary activities at those firms entail building the network's infrastructure, helping people interact with it, and promoting the network so that more customers join it, making it more powerful. At a bank, these would be comprised of back office operations, tellers and branches, and marketing activities, respectively. We can generalize from these three generic descriptions of strategic activity systems using the terms of discrete activities, linkages, and drivers. First, just like Porter's value chain needed to be supplemented to account for service firms, the three covered here are not nearly exhaustive. For instance, Disney, which relies on content creation for most of its customer-facing activities, isn't really a chain, shop, or network. Perhaps we could call it a value creator. KSU might fit here. Most firms are actually compositions of multiple types of value systems. Starbucks uses something like a value chain for making its food and drinks available in its stores, but it runs its locations like a shop because of the customizations that it offers to its customers, and its brand management, including its loyalty programs, most resembles a value network. And firms regularly integrate their strategic activity systems with those of their key suppliers and customers. UPS Global, the unit of UPS that manages logistics for other firms, is an easy example. At any of its facilities, UPS Global's business activities are seamlessly integrated with the goods that it is moving around for its clients. As another example, it is common at many firms for key service providers, such as lawyers, accountants, and consultants, to be given full access to a firm's workplaces, including security badges and office space. The bigger point is that firms should use whatever combination of discrete activities and linkages, as supported by drivers, that best support their efforts utilize resources to satisfy its customers. Let's reinforce the connection between the resource-based view of the firm and strategic activity systems. They work hand in hand. The RBV focuses on identifying and nurturing sources of distinctiveness by differentiating between basic inputs, strengths, CVRs, capabilities, and core competencies, and providing the VRIO test for distinguishing between mere strengths and true building blocks of distinctiveness. The RBV helps managers pinpoint how they can create separation from competitors and value for customers. Strategic activity systems focus on how firms organize their activities to bring those elements of distinctiveness to the market. It does so by breaking the firm down into discrete activities, building linkages among them, and understanding drivers or existing factors that influence strategic decisions and impact overall firm performance. Going through these mechanics will help managers get a view on the overall intention of value configurations, allowing sources of distinctiveness to flourish in the market. We can use IKEA as an example of how strategic activity systems and the resource-based view support one another. First, we discussed competitively valuable resources as pockets of excellence or building blocks of distinctiveness. Breaking a firm down into discrete activities should help managers identify where those CVRs reside, alongside basic inputs or strengths. Using the IKEA graphic as an example, notice that necessary activities such as shipping and store maintenance are not even listed. These would be basic inputs that must be done, and hopefully done well, but are not going to make a meaningful impact on the firm's performance. Perhaps others are strengths, such as year-round stocking or high-traffic store layouts. Last, some of these circles, such as knockdown packaging and in-house design, might pass the VRIO test and be regarded as competitively valuable resources. Second, we define capabilities as systems of activities that deliver benefits to customers. Again, linkages and drivers describe how managers construct and utilize the firm as a system. So the managerial ability to design and sustain linkages among discrete activities while understanding and managing underlying drivers could be argued to be the most important skill a firm's top managers can have. Here, capabilities are indicated by groups of activities. And the one or two of those capabilities that help define the company in the marketplace or its core competencies are likely to have a significant influence on the firm's overall performance. In this case, that would be the modular furniture design and the low manufacturing costs, which lead to low prices. In this graphic, there is also an example of a strategic capability that is not a core competency. Limited customer service is a big deal at IKEA because reducing the number of people that work in the stores allows it to offer lower prices. But successfully running a retail location with little in-store personnel requires lots of setup beforehand. Customers must feel comfortable with the information they are receiving about the products from displays rather than by asking questions, and must be confident that they can assemble the items themselves. But limited customer service isn't a driving reason for customers to visit IKEA. Using our terms, this is a capability, a system of activities that delivers customer benefits through lower prices, but not a core competency directly connected to how customers view the firm. To reiterate, the resource-based view is a tool for identifying sources of distinctiveness, or how a firm can stand out in competitive environments. Strategic activity systems analyze how firms create systems to deliver a firm's competitively valuable resources to the market through strategic capabilities and core competencies. Together, they explain why some companies continually stand out to customers and why others do not. The key to the resource-based view model is appropriately utilizing its terminology to distinguish between basic inputs, strengths and weaknesses, competitively valuable resources, strategic capabilities, and core competencies. This allows you to focus in on the things that make firms distinctive in the marketplace. Strategic activity systems build on the key ideas of discrete activities, linkages, and drivers, and are built with the intention of delivering a firm's competitively valuable resources to the market through strategic capabilities and core competencies. What's important is that a firm's activity systems efficiently and effectively transforms basic inputs into great products and services for its customers. And this concludes the presentation.